Welcome to another episode of Running Greenleaf. Today we're going through our fourth quarter review of our retail business. So we got myself, Josh, Andrew here today. We're going to dig into everything we bought, what we learned, and what we see going forward. So, all right, let's dig into it. First part is, I think it's the favorite part of the quarter.
Transaction volume.
Distributions.
Distributions are always fun, especially when you're paying everybody.
Yeah, so everything's going out this quarter?
Everything's paying. Every single property we have will pay this quarter. So yes, in the retail portfolio.
14 deals.
15.
15 now that we're currently operating, and
yes.
Everything making a distribution this quarter.
Yes.
I remember early on in the days when we used to mail checks, we would get stories from our investors that they would get this like big envelope in the mail with the printed statements and all the checks in it.
Oh.
And they basically would like cut the bottom of the envelope, just shake it, and count how many checks fell on the floor, and that's how they would know it was a good quarter or not.
So in the early days
yourself.
that I missed, you guys were actually cutting checks?
Oh, yeah, we were writing checks and mailing everything
like
out.
Handwriting checks?
Yeah, now we use the internet.
The interwebs?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So all distributions, we send them out on the 20th, and they'll hit a day or two after that. But everything went out this quarter, so pretty solid quarter on the performance front.
I think we should revisit the writing checks.
No, I think.
You sure?
Yeah, no, I think that's a negative.
All right.
I think that's going to get overruled by if we had a chairman. So, all right. So let's dig a little bit into transaction volume and see kind of what we're seeing on the deal front. We did close some stuff here in the fourth quarter, but it also gives a good indication of what we're looking at going forward and see what kind of deals we can get lined up.
Well, so for Q4, we closed 3 deals. We closed one Dollar General in our new state. So we closed Florida. So this was that was our new state for the year. So we've actually closed our first deal in Florida in Middleburg. And it was just a run-of-the-mill standard Dollar General. We love our Dollar Generals. It's in a Jacksonville suburb. Very good demographics as far as the Dollar General is concerned. Very high traffic foot count into the store.
Yeah, I think that's important to realize. So like demographics are different everywhere, but they're specific to the type of asset we're buying. We're looking for certain demographics for a Dollar General versus our other acquisition this quarter, very different demographics.
Yeah, like does Johns Creek have a Dollar General in it?
It does. It does have a Dollar General.
It does have a Dollar General? We need to look at the foot traffic of that one.
They're everywhere, though.
There's no Dollar General in Dunwoody. I can tell you that.
Maybe.
Or Brookhaven. I don't think there's a Dollar General in Brookhaven or Dunwoody.
Maybe there's the with the pop shelf thing, the new thing they opened. That's right down the street here. The new pop shelf concept.
Okay.
It's a purple logo. So
fun. Well,
we learned about those. They opened like 250 of them. We should look up that number.
That's their new concept. It's a fancy Dollar General essentially. But we also closed on the iconic hamburger brand. We closed on the locations, the 2 Vortex locations, the one in Midtown and Little Five Points. Yep. Most fun transaction we've had. We love going there and having the hamburgers. And so you and I are due another quadruple bypass burger, I believe.
You get your weekly intake of calories from one meal.
Yes, and Josh will sit there.
You can get 10,000 calories in one meal.
Josh will sit there and have his grilled chicken sandwich.
I gagged the whole time I'm watching this.
Oh my gosh.
But that was a fun transaction. We've closed, we're done. And I had my first investor meeting there Saturday night with one of our investors, and he ordered a burger, and he was very excited about owning his 2% of the real estate at the Vortex.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool brand, and iconic restaurant here in Atlanta, and just super fun to be at and go to.
He took his 23-year-old son with him too, and so he got to show, hey, I own a little bit of this, and his son didn't care, of course.
Our operating partner there, that's really their MO, right? Really, is buying iconic brands in the city, throughout the city, and building a portfolio of those. We signed a 15-year lease with us for the Vortex.
15-year lease with 3% increases. Yes.
It's a solid,
great partner to have.
Yeah, solid operator. We have a long-term lease, so we'll be there for a while, and we're super excited about what that's going to be.
Yeah, and in the future, we're hoping to open up more Vortex locations too, if the opportunity sort of.
But we're not the operator.
Well, help them open up more. Help them open up more Vortex
we are
locations.
hoping that all of the franchises and operators we work with would like to open up more locations that we can also purchase.
Yes.
Yeah. So if we think about deal flow, going into 2023 it was tighter overall. So that's most of the brokerage
shops we talked to, volume was down somewhere in the order of 70%. Most of that was driven by the interest rate increases.
which really hit the fourth quarter.
Right.
Yeah. I think, going forwards, either stable interest rates or even, there's talk of declining interest rates, but even stable interest rates will create buying opportunities versus rising. Stable versus rising. Stable is much better on the deal front. And the deal front isn't always just like, what's the cap rate? It's getting buyers and sellers to come to the table and be willing to transact. And that's a lot easier when you have a known economic environment versus one that's turbulent or has different ups and downs into it or unknown. So if we see a more stable interest rate environment in 2024, which sounds like where we're headed, it should create additional buying opportunities for us.
Well, and remember too, retail is, we try to make it as predictable as possible. And so the more predictable it is, the better decisions we can make and the easier it is to buy deals when we know something is going to sell. We're going to buy it at an X cap rate and sell it at a X cap rate with a 15-year lease. And so if we have all those metrics already known and they're predictable, it's a lot easier to buy and a lot easier to sell.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Going to the next one here, we talk about tax returns a little bit. We're doing the fourth quarter wrap up. So part of something we're doing every end of quarter, at the end of the year, not at every end of quarter, end of the year is our tax returns. So our target with those, we have wrapped up all of our financials. Obviously, we're sending out our quarterly reports, but our goal is always to get our K1s and that information out as fast as possible. And right now we expect to have that stuff out the end of February.
End of February. So I can give my accountant all my information by the beginning of March?
Your account, your holding company, you can get done by October 15th, but all of our K1s for LPs will be out
Gotcha.
for the end of February. That's our target on that one. So, all right, another operating part that we're always going through, we look at budgeting for the end of the year, we look at our projections going forwards, is we're trying to determine what are our rental rate escalations. For the retail side of the business, these are pretty baked into what the leases are. So of our 15 operating locations, we have 7 that had rental escalations this year. Right, so we've got a few of the different franchise operators have built in annual escalations, and then some of them have escalations every 5 years. The Dollar Generals are more on the 5-year trend, whereas our other locations are on individual single-year trends.
And a couple of them will have big rent bumps this year. So we'll have a 10% rent bump on Applebee's Lithia Springs, and then a 7.5% rent bump on Applebee's Sumter this year, which is that's every 5-year rent bump versus an every year smaller rent bump.
Yeah, so those are less frequent but larger versus the annual bumps. Like Taco John's has a 1.5% bump. The rest of these are between 1 and 1.25% that we see on an annual basis, especially like our Zaxby's or IHOP. Those are all 1% jumps that we're seeing. And those are in 2024 that those happen, some earlier than later, but we do have jumps each year.
Yeah, and part of the buying opportunity is if we buy a deal at, say, a 6 cap rate, but we know that rent bump is coming in the next 12, 24 months, and that rent bump will take it to, say, a 7.5, 8 cap rate. That's part of the buying opportunity that we're looking for, that maybe there's an impatient seller that needs to sell the deal for whatever reason. It could be a life event. It could be, a divorce. It could be whatever. That we can buy that deal at, say, a lower cap rate, and then in the next 12, 24 months, get that rent bump and put us in a much better position.
Yeah.
Right, so we could essentially make, if we sell at the same cap rate, we're essentially still making money because the rent bump is higher.
Exactly.
Or the rent will be higher when we sell.
And a lot of that, too, is like our hold strategies looking at retail. As we hold deals and the rents are increasing, you're selling at the same cap rate, but it's a higher value.
Yes.
Yeah, part of the predictability part of the business. So that's why we like to get to be predictable.
So, all right, we want to talk a little bit about leverage and debt and kind of what we're seeing right now. It's been something that's always kind of on the docket each quarter, or every time we're doing a retail update is looking at the impacts of debt. It's highly influential, especially in the retail space, because we have, we're tying fixed debt to fixed leases for a longer period of time. And that spread is critical in determining what our investment returns are. So I guess let's just go through loans we have coming due in 2024.
So
we'll start with that.
2024, there's only one, which is good news. So we have Applebee Seneca coming up, and Applebee Seneca just went through an automatic 5-year update, so it's got another 5-year lease on it.
But that's a
Higher debt rate.
good example of a deal, just what you were saying, Josh, where the rent bump happened. So even if we're selling it at the same cap rate,
Yeah, instant value.
Yeah, we're getting value. And there it's only happening once every 5 years. So you've kind of got to time your acquisition. If you buy that 6 months into it, you're going to have 4.5 years left before the next rental rate bump. If you buy it in the middle of it, it's all timing on how that transaction works and what your investment returns would be. But our purpose going into that deal was knowing we're going to have this rental rate bump in the future, knowing that we have a valuation gain, and then seeing, does it make sense to capitalize on that by selling it, or does it make sense to capitalize on that by refinancing it?
And Seneca's been a remarkable deal just from the start anyway. I think someone estimated that we've actually paid 9% in distributions. So that's a pretty good paying
overall
deal.
Yeah.
So it's done pretty well.
All right. Let's dive into the next part. We talked a little bit on our acquisitions, but I think we should mention too, just like our deals where we look at higher rents versus lower rents. We get into kind of the operating details of what these retail deals look like. When you have higher rent locations, it's typically a operator that's performing really well, right? And they can afford to pay more because it's based on a percentage of rent. But then that makes it harder to replace that because you got to find another. If something were to happen, you got to find another high earning operator to take that space versus finding a low rent operator.
And if you find the high rent operator, don't forget that they're going to want a pretty heavy TI package to actually to make it.
If there's a turnover, right, to go make it
into a new brand. So if you want to convert a restaurant from a brand A to brand B, brand B is going to require that, hey, I don't need to look like brand A, so I'm going to need $1 million or $2 million in TI to make this restaurant look like we want it to look like. And they're going to ask us to pay for it too. But I mean, that usually works. If you get a 15 or 20 year lease out of it, it generally works.
Yeah. But yeah, you've got you've got a different situation on tenant potential when you're going from always a high dollar rent per square foot to a lower one. And it's just another factor that we're looking at as we underwrite our deals and determining, what's best for us and what's best for our investment horizon.
And, we love our Dollar Generals. Our Dollar General are $10 to $15 rents. They're always very cheap. I don't know if I've ever seen a Dollar General that was actually re-tenanted because the Dollar General just stays there. As long as the Dollar General is remotely performing, they stay because they want to do a net increase. They don't want to do a net decrease.
Yeah.
In their
and theirs is interesting too. We look at the Dollar General renewals. What's the name of that organization? They've got an organization that comes out, Excess Space, that comes out and they kind of rebids all of their rent escalations.
Right.
So it's not that they're just guaranteed on some of these. It's kind of that business world of everything can be negotiated. Yeah. So they're out there. They'll try and work through some of their renewals to see if they can lower their rents.
Yeah, and honestly, I would say Dollar General does make it. There's something on the table for both the tenant and the landlord. Ideally, when you're negotiating with a tenant, the tenant and the landlord need to get something out of it. If the negotiation is one-sided, it's a hard negotiation, and it's not a partnership anymore. It's just a I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah, it's just a one-sided.
It's a one-sided sort of conversation, and
So the terms, the negotiated terms. So on the tenant side, they have rent, TI, and length of the lease. And on our side, we really have those levers and really just kind of balancing those back and forth to see what makes sense for both parties. And we're primarily looking at how do we get the most term, because that drives the most value of the retail asset, and that we're willing to give up a little bit of rent. We're willing to give up even some TI if they need it,
right? To
get the most term for us to drive the most value.
Well, I think, as Dave says, it's just math at a certain point. So, how much TI do you want? How much can we sell for? And then we can kind of back up. Okay, if we can sell for X, we know we could afford to give you this much TI, or the rent will be this, and it's just really just an equation. And back to predictability, we have a good guess that we can sell within this 50-point cap range. And so if we know we can sell within that 50-point cap range, then we know exactly what an exit would look like.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, we want to go through just some ideas of 2024 and what our projections are and what do we think is going to happen, or how many deals we think we're going to be able to find. We've been talking a lot about our operating partnerships over the past couple quarters and months, and that's really our main source of high quality deals that we're looking at, right? I mean, there's other stuff that's on the market, but like we said, sellers have been very reluctant. We said down 70%, right, is kind of where we're wrapping up right now. So to go find stuff is going to require us to really do some digging in early 2024.
Well, my guess is there's just a pent-up number of owners who actually want to sell their properties now because the transaction volume didn't just decrease. People just held and postponed their sale.
So you think we're going to see a spike?
So yeah,
Or
I mean,
do you think it's going to go up?
there's got to be a spike because all of these sales were essentially postponed in 2023. And so there's going to be some sort of a fluctuation in 2024, which could arguably create a buying situation for us. If there's a big flood of properties on the market, in theory, it is a buying opportunity because it's a seller's, would that be called a seller's market? That would be called a buyer's market. Yeah, when sellers are selling, it's a buyer's market because there's too many sellers and fewer buyers.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. That sounds optimistic for our opportunities in 2024. So that's pretty cool. But all right.
We just need debt to go down, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Or people are willing to sell at a higher rate. Willing to sell at a higher cap rate.
Higher cap rate, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, as we look for those opportunities, we'll also look for operators that are looking to expand and grow their businesses that we can partner with. Every year there's new brands coming out. There's existing brands that are expanding or contracting. And we're always kind of keeping our eye out to see what's the best ones to partner with. You guys went to the conference this year. You guys met, I don't know how many dozen brands. And almost all of them were looking at how do we find more operators to grow more locations. And those operators are saying, how do we find real estate partners to lease from?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dave discovered Jersey Mike's at...
I know, the places, they're growing, right? It's fantastic.
Dana DeVito sell subs.
So. Yeah, a lot of companies out there are looking to grow and expand, and we can be part of that, and that's what we're looking to be by partnering with some of these operators. So yeah, that's our fourth quarter recap here. We're excited. 2023 was a very good year. All of our deals are making their distributions. We're excited about the opportunities that are coming up in 2024, and hopefully have some new deals out there shortly that we can share with you. All right.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
For more tips on operating and investing in real estate, please check us out at greenleafmanagement.com or find us on YouTube and Spotify.